Hey guys, Isaac Hernandez here from the El Paso Creators Podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Today we have Richard here with us. Richard's a very unique guy here in El Paso. He's very supporting here and locally. He's running his own campaign for District 5. So make sure you guys go check him out. But before we get going with this episode, I want to let you guys exactly who our sponsors are, Socialize. If you guys haven't checked them out, they're pretty much very good mangoñadas here in town. I really like their fried Oreos, their funnel cakes, they have things. So make sure you guys go check them out. I'll link them around this the screen here and around the audio, the description, and everything. We're also here at Amano, the artist co-op. So if you guys haven't checked out and you guys are an artist, things like that, make sure to just come out here, check it out. I think there's still studios available. You guys can reach out to Brian or reach out to me and I'll connect you guys with them. Right now, the studio here, it's really nice, a really cool environment. And y'all see the artwork behind us here. Dead Punk is really a very famous local artist here as well. He gets very creative with it. And then behind me, you see Gibel's work, which was the previous episode. So she decided to showcase her artwork behind us as well. So enough about from me and everything in general. Richard, I want to just introduce you. Just tell us a little bit, just get going with your little background, who you are, what you do,
sure.
Things like that.
So my name is Richard Genera, and I'm 29 years old. I turned 30 in January, and I'm crossing that existential bridge right now, turning 30. Born and raised in El Paso. My Spanish is a little lacking. I can understand a good amount of it. Speaking it is where I struggle. My conjugation is kind of terrible. I graduated from El Dorado High School, which is in District 5, the area that I'm campaigning to serve, which is the Far East Side. I was a band geek in high school. I played clarinet from like 5th grade up through my high school years. I was head drum major my senior year. I was in a couple of rock bands after I got out of high school. And I graduated in 2010. I right after school, my mom pushed me to get into college, just do something in college.
Did you want to go into college?
I did not.
No,
I didn't. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. My father passed away when I was young, when I was around 12 years old, and so my mother and I didn't have the strongest relationship. It was kind of stressful at times, and so I felt I don't want to go to college, but she's how Hispanic mothers can be, and
Something
she was
to
like,
please your mom.
You're going to college, and
Yeah.
you're under my roof. You're going to be going to college, and I was like, okay, fine. So I started going to college. I was a computer science major for a year or two. I did all right with it. Like I can program, but I didn't have a passion for it. I couldn't see myself doing it for the rest of my life. So I dropped out and just focused on working to help support the house. In 2014, I got a different job, and it was one that was paying the bills and allowed me to really reflect on myself. At this point, I was about 22, 23, and I start thinking, okay, what do I want to do with my life? And what do I want to accomplish? And like I said, my mother's and my relationship was kind of rough. The adults that I really admired and looked up to growing up were my teachers, band directors, but a lot of just regular class teachers as well. So I decided that I have a debt to pay to the universe. I have so many teachers who were there at critical times in my life, who were just there to listen, to be there, to care, and I'm going to do that for at least one kid. And if I can do that for at least one kid, then my debt to the universe is paid. Yeah. And then I'll teach for maybe 10 some odd years and get that paid off. And then I'll go find something else to do. So that's what I did. That's what I dedicated myself to doing since 2014. For about 5-6 years, I was working full time. I started out school part time, but that was taking too long. So then I started working full time and going to school full time. And in about 2020, I was still going through school, and I started getting involved with local campaigns during the 2020 election, and I started realizing a lot of the issues that were happening in El Paso, and decided, I think the problem is that no one talks about it, no one really knows about it. It's an education problem, and I was looking at it from the lens as an educator. I don't know if I mentioned I wanted to teach English. That was the goal that I wanted, the class that I wanted to teach, English in high school English. So I thought about if I was trying to get my students more engaged with local politics, what would I do? And I thought to myself, a podcast would be perfect. That's what we need right now. And there wasn't one. I looked around and there wasn't a El Paso politics focused podcast. And so I was like, there's no one to compete against. That means I can just step up and do it. And even if I do it badly, it's not like you can compare me to
It's also
anybody
trial and
else. And
error.
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And so, at the beginning of 2021, I started the El Paso Beat podcast, and I've interviewed a number of our city representatives. I covered the EPISD school board trustee races. I interviewed a bunch of those candidates, and when I started out the El Paso Beat, I wanted to build something that, you know, engages people with politics, but I realized that local politics isn't super sexy. And so you have to have something else to like complement it. And so I've taken a variety of influences. One of them is admittedly The Beat with Ari Melber on MSNBC, who has various guests, pop culture guests on his show. And he always makes like really cringy music references throughout the show, and I was like, that like lame dad joke.
But
like,
it gets
I
you
like
attention
that,
to
but
it, you're like,
it makes you laugh and it makes you think. And you're like, oh, Ari. And so I was like, that's what we need. We need someone to have the conversation and kind of hold people's hands through local politics and make it
entertaining for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's what I set out to do with the El Paso Beat. I don't know that I've quite done it effectively. I'm doing my best, but you know, that's where I'm at. And so after doing it for a few months, I realized that the issues that I saw were not getting addressed, and I decided, well, I'm doing this show, I'm engaging with people, I'm going to run for city council. So I've shifted my focus, and I'm putting my dream to teach on hold, and right now I'm running for city representative, District 5.
Cool. Well, I want to touch a couple of things that you mentioned there. For the first thing, the podcast. So your El Paso Beat one. I liked how you mentioned that you try to involve something more entertaining within there, as far as like, you know, like pop culture. I know you also interviewed creatives, things like that. How do you think that's like been, I guess, like a special change or an impact to your podcast, specifically when having like a different entertainment process within it?
So I had hopes, I had expectations, and that's and we'll probably come around to that, because expectations are dangerous. Like, no matter what you do, when you're starting out something, things aren't going to go according to plan. You know, the saying goes, man plans and God laughs. Yeah. And so when it came to bringing on those other kinds of guests on, I've actually been very shocked to find that like I those episodes will attract new eyes, and you know, very often I'll have one or two that like really stick with the show as a result. But those aren't the ones that are doing the best. The ones that actually do a lot better is the stuff where I'm focused on the more of the local politics.
Because it's a niche, right? So,
right, and I think I've kind of tapped into it, and it's starting to grow. But I don't want to forget from that root like what I wanted to accomplish, because ultimately what I wanted to accomplish was build a platform that would like shine a light on everything El Paso. And so like all the guests that I have you know, been tied to El Paso. But yeah, it's been pretty interesting. I keep an open mind, and I've said it before on the show. Pretty much anyone who wants to come onto the show can pretty much come onto the show, as long as you're tied to El Paso. But yeah, it's yeah.
And I also want to touch like the whole importance of podcasting. So I like how you, as a politician, a growing politician, you want to get into like different digital mediums and all that podcasting. How important do you see podcasting helping your campaign as well?
Oh, yeah. Without the podcast, I'd be lost in nowhere. Like I know for a fact that a couple of the early support that I've gotten in the campaign have been from people who were listening and who have reached out and be like, you're doing
and like
it.
the impact of it, because I always tell a bunch of artists too, I'm like, make a podcast of it or your art, or like, you know, there's a guy who he does reviews on toys, things like that. And so I'm like, there's an audience for everything like that. And it actually helps promote you with your own personal brand.
Absolutely. It's, you know, Ted Cruz has his own podcast now. You know, Yang has his own podcast. I don't want to like toot my own horn or anything like that, but like I feel like I got in on the early ground of like politicians using a podcast to like promote themselves and engage with people and build around. That wasn't the goal when I created the El Paso Beat. I really didn't anticipate getting all the way up to this point. I kind of kept looking for any excuse not to run. I wanted to teach. I'm a teacher. Yeah. Like I'm not a politician. This isn't what I wanted to do, but it's very much a fight of necessity. And I think in the future we're going to start seeing way more politicians dominate like that space and start using that as a medium. And absolutely artists need to jump on it as well, because podcasting is the future.
And
medium.
I like how we talked about, like, before we did the show and all that, we talked about, like, change and like getting into like the new change of how the world is like changing in all these different industries and all that. So how important do you think it is to adapt and change, like, and growing?
I think I mentioned it right before we started recording, and I kind of butchered it, but Andrew Yang said something that like really stuck with me. When it comes to revolutions, you can either be undertaking the revolution and bringing about the change, or you can have the change thrust upon you. And when that change finally comes, no matter what it is, like when it's thrust upon you, it hurts. Look at like print media. Companies who saw the internet coming and decided to adapt and change up their model, they're the ones who survive. The ones who don't adapt to the new times, they're the ones who get left behind. And technology makes change happen a lot faster. And the next 10 to 20 years, technology is going to advance at paces that we didn't even fathom before.
Yeah, and you just got to use it all to your advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. And the great thing is I don't think a campaign like mine, I don't think my efforts of trying to get El Paso more engaged with local politics, none of it would have worked 10 years ago. Like I said, this is a very awesome setup. I'm very envious that this microphone is gorgeous, and I've got like a $20, $30 mic and my laptop, and I'm in my bedroom closet, and that's it. But that's all I need. Like anyone can get out there and get onto a platform and start putting themselves out there. Exactly. Yeah. And so it's really a fantastic time to be an artist, because it's never been more, accessible for you to share your art. And it is scary to put it out there, but you have to take that step, and you have to get it out there.
I want to touch something very interesting that I saw that you did. It was your whole celebrity shot glasses
signature
thing. What is that all about?
So that's a personal hobby of mine. That let's see. So
because you're using that too as benefit to your campaign, right?
Right. Yeah. I'd like to tie it into the campaign. So in 2016, I went to the Blink-182 concert when they came here to El Paso.
Okay.
I blew a paycheck's worth on the ticket, and they're my all-time favorite band. So it was a pretty easy, semi-easy. It hurt, but it was an easy decision to make. And so they came, and so day of the concert, I'm driving to the concert to. Actually, I was gonna pick up a friend who was going with me, and I was passing a bar I used to frequent. And I actually collect souvenir and novelty shot glasses. I don't know if I have a picture of that you might have seen, but I have probably around 300 at this point, souvenir shot glasses. At that point, it was a lot smaller. These are like the ones that you find at like gas stations and airports and stuff like that. I've been collecting those since I was like 8 or 9. Yeah. But in 2016, I'm driving to this concert, and I see that bar, and I'm like, man, if I got a shot glass autographed by Blink-182, that would be cool as shit. And I did. I turned around, I went to the bar, and then I was driving. It was the middle of the day. I didn't take the shot. Maybe I should have. I was like, I'll give you $5 if you make a shot glass disappear. And she was like, all right. She pulled out a bunch of different shot glasses, and I was like, cool, that one. And I took it, and I went, and I had a Sharpie because I was getting other stuff signed. And I got their autograph on it, and that was the first one. Wow. I saw my favorite comedian like a few months later, Christopher Titus, in Phoenix. And so I was like, I'll get his autograph on a shot glass too. And it kind of just built off of that. In 2018, I went to a comic convention in Dallas, and I met Jason Momoa, Felicia Day, Richard Dean Anderson, and Christopher Lloyd, Doc Brown from Back to the Future. And got all their autographs on shot glasses. And then it kind of slowed down. I got into a relationship, and all my time and money started going to that. And then we broke up, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna start doing stuff for me. So I started going to all these comic conventions and then getting all these autographs, and it just kept building up. And it's a very expensive hobby, autograph collecting, especially if you do it the way that I was doing it at that time. And so I was like, the entrepreneur in me was like, I have to mitigate costs. So I started Autograph Fetcher, which is a little autograph consignment service. And again, I looked around in El Paso, and I was like, does someone do this?
Right.
And I didn't find anyone doing autograph consignment. Now, it's like a thing. It's actually a very big thing in other bigger cities and stuff like that. But here, there was no one doing it. So I was like, oh, I'll be El Paso's autograph consignment person. And
you jumped
that was
at an
tricky.
opportunity.
I do. And when I see those gaps, like when I see those spaces, like the only thing you can do is jump in and take that place. Because if you don't, someone else is gonna
do it. Exactly.
And so I started Autograph Fetcher, and I would go to comic conventions, meet and greets, whatever I could. People would send me their items, or we would meet up and pick up. I actually ended up having a bigger market nationally than I did locally, but I did, get some local support. And whatever you want, you send me your item, you send me the payment, I take it with me to the convention, I get it signed, and then I send it back to you. And that was it. That was the service. And I was only making like $15-20 per signature or per order. And I was driving to a lot of these conventions, so it was easy for me to fill up the car with stuff. And so it was very much a game of like, I'm getting as many orders as I can, and then like just build it up, and then that's how I'll mitigate the cost. And so COVID totally shot the convention scene in the knee. So like right at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, I actually went to a convention in Albuquerque, and that was my last convention. And I had a good amount of orders. I actually think I was just about to be profitable. And I was like, oh, I was so excited. 2020 was going to be my year. Yeah. I was going to really turn this into something. And no, COVID and
it just
change of plans. And then I get involved with the campaigns, and then I start the beat. And so
how did that change you, like as a person, and like your views on stuff and everything?
The Autograph Fetcher?
Just that, and then also your life in general, like with like, because a lot of people, they wanted to pursue a certain thing before the pandemic, and then they ended up pursuing something else like
definitely.
After, So like, how did that change you?
The pandemic. What I think it did for a lot of people is that it slowed everything down. Everyone, when you get forced inside and you're stuck in your room and you're just lying there and you're thinking, you really start to think, and you really start to think about, what is it that I'm doing? What is it that I want? What are we doing here? Like go into that existential space, and it's like, what is it all for? Right. And I think that has a lot to do with, the things that we're seeing today, like all around the country, around the world, is that people finally took the time to stop and think about what they want. And we're seeing that manifest, and people are acting more on what they want to do. I think it primed me for this whole thing, this whole experience. I was very much focused on Autograph Fetcher. I was under the impression I was still on, getting my English degree, and I was still thinking I was going to be a teacher. And I thought, I'll just be an English teacher. And my quirky hobby is I collect autographs and I go to conventions, and that's my thing. I'm just going to live in my corner in El Paso, live a quiet, happy life, solid. Yeah. And the pandemic slows you down, and you start looking around and you start seeing this stuff. And some people can like look at something and be like, oh, well, it sucks to suck, but that's just the way life is. And I'm the kind of person who says, well, someone has to do something. And like, if no one else is going to do it, then I'm going to step up and do it, and I'll do the best that I can. And so, I don't think I would have made the jump to committing myself to this role if it hadn't been for the pandemic. Yeah.
I think this is kind of also the perfect time to ask that question. I was going to tell you from our sponsors. So Socialize, the ones that brought us these mangoneadas. The perfect thing, I guess, to impact on your podcast and the Fetchers thing and your campaign as a whole is, with all those platforms, how do you see yourself grow those things within it, as far as also being a politician? Like, how do you really see yourself, I guess, supporting the city with your platforms?
Like I said, one of my main concerns is the fourth industrial revolution, automation and AI, taking away all those jobs. That is going to devastate our job economy. We have to start planning for a new economy ahead. So my plan is called the Solar Dividend. El Paso is the 6th sunniest city in the country. We're the 10th sunniest city in the world. And that's, my entrepreneurial mind, where I see a gap and I see a space that isn't dominated yet. My mind says we could be the solar capital of the country. Mm-hmm. We could invest in a solar infrastructure to farm as much solar power as possible and start pumping it out. Sell it distribute it, for profit. Yeah. It wouldn't work anywhere except El Paso because of how sunny we are. And, eventually profits start to rack up, and we have other issues to take care of. People are concerned about streets and programs and things like that. But we're talking about billions of dollars from a source that's never going anywhere and a market that's completely untapped. I mean, it's ripe for the taking. And so once we get this set up, and there's and we probably don't have time to get into all the logistics of setting it up, but there is a path there to get it set up. And the solar dividend, a universal basic income, is going to be our share, El Pasoans' share of those profits. I'm committed to taking care of debts and everything, off the bat. But once we're at a point, and that point would come with all the profits that we'd be making, we're going to have to start taking care of our people, because we're still going to go through this fourth industrial revolution. There's going to be thousands of people in the city without jobs, and we have to be there for them. And so the people of the city that keep the city going, that will keep this whole solar farming business going, will be paid out of the profits through the solar dividend. And when you're getting $500 to $1,000 a month on top of whatever you're making, like you're so much freer. Like you have so much more, like it's actually been studied and proven that people who live paycheck to paycheck operate at a lower brain capacity than people who don't, because the stress makes your brain, it fries your brain. And so sharing those profits with artists, with everyone, is going to be what empowers artists and creators to have that flexible income, to be able to take those chances and be like, I can pay for this admission for this gala, I can pay to rent this space, I can pay for this supplies and equipment, and really start investing in my craft. Because it's the artists who are going to have to carry El Paso in the next economy.
Exactly. And so that's another question I was going to ask you is, getting involved with the city and all that. How do you view, I guess, the arts, the art district here in El Paso? How do you view them helping artists here locally? And then how do you see them not helping them? And then how do you see it growing organically, like the arts community here? How do you see it growing?
So I'll be honest. I'm not super deep in the art community as of now. So I'm going to flip it on you, and I'm going to ask you, what are you seeing? You talk to a lot of artists, you talk to a lot of creators. What should we be doing better?
Well, I've always seen that lack of support, and that's the reason I've always built this platform in the Paso Creators, because I always saw, lack of support. The city uses the same artists for their things and everything. They don't ever give new opportunities to other people, especially growing artists, people who are looking to get their first gig or their first show gallery and things like that. The opportunity to get to that point, especially with all these applications that have to do and the whole process of it takes forever. And for an artist, sometimes it also gets expensive and you can't really afford it. So, we built this platform pretty much to just making sure that there's somewhere they could go to for support, and then also opportunity. So different events we plan, the podcast, for example, just different things that, if they can't get their voice heard with the city, they can get the voice heard with our platform. And I've also seen where there's galleries here that are opening up who are not city funded, they're personally funded with their own stuff and all that. And I feel like that's what makes a bigger impact, especially in the arts community, is because it's actually somebody who's in the community itself actually really caring about the arts community and actually making a change for that without asking the city for help or things like that, which I feel like, if there's a way that the city to help out the local artist community, big or small, no matter the size, it could make a big difference. So I guess I would get the question back to you now.
Sure,
and be like,
absolutely.
So how would you,
and so, what I'm hearing from you is right now there are too many barriers for local artists to get involved. And I can already see it. If you bring this kind of conversation to a more installed politician, they're going to be like, well, we're using taxpayer money and we need to make sure that people, are going to like whatever it is. And it's like, well, what the problem is there is this lack of engagement, and the fact that, y'all don't communicate with things and you just start assuming what people want. And one of the things I really want to do is way more town halls, way more meetings, community meetings, and giving people the opportunity to engage. And I would love if I could have a list of paintings or a list of artists who, I could say, hey, this is the space that we're going to be in. I want you to fill it up with your art. And then if you want to sell it, cool, put price tags on it too. I can totally see, those meetings and those opportunities as a way to support those artists and build them up to the level where it's like, okay, well, you've got some money in your belt and you've had some experience, you have some exposure. fill out the application and go through that process.
Exactly.
It's kind of one of the comments that I've heard as I've started my campaign. There's like, well, go to business school or go get some political experience, come back within a couple of years. The problem is that El Paso has a median age of 33 years old. And every time, we have a conversation about what's wrong with El Paso, and that's in air quotes for the listeners who aren't watching, people say the young generation doesn't care. And then the young generation tries to get involved, and the generation before us is like, no, you don't have the experience, you don't know what you're doing, and it's like
they don't give you the opportunity.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all about providing as many of those opportunities for those local artists as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm not going to say that like our local leadership doesn't promote local artists. Like I've firsthand heard the discussions, and I've seen the arts district grow, and I've seen the investment there, and I love it. And like I said, our artists are going to be the ones carrying the economy on our back. El Paso is going to be like a cultural mecca soon.
And I feel art just grows like the whole world in general, because without the artists, there's really nothing to see.
What's the point? What's the point of all of it if I feel you 100%. And so sorry, I'm sorry.
So no, that's what the reason I was asking is like I like that I also brought you on the show, and also to kind of see like what impact your campaign would have, especially for artists. This is like a creative podcast and everything. We're supporting artists. Like I guess with the what change that you would bring to help them out.
Right. And just that engagement as a city representative, I feel that it's you're the base platform. People should be able to get engaged with any of their elected officials. It's not realistic to necessarily expect that you could call up the president and bitch at him personally. Yeah. But your city representative, that's the bottom of the ladder. Right. Like that person should be talking to local artists and using every opportunity to promote them and develop them and showcase them, because they're part of your city, they're part of your district, that's on you to take every opportunity to help your people. And those opportunities aren't even happening for a lot of our representatives, which is an issue all on its own. But taking those opportunities and really capitalizing on how much can be done. Like I said, you could have I want to have at least one meeting a week. That might be a little ambitious, at least every 2 weeks, community meetings. And so it's like, twice a month you have a whole room of showcased art from a different artist of the week.
Exactly.
And like
giving all these artists the opportunity, not just like the same ones.
Definitely. And encouraging other, across the city, across the whole council, encouraging them to do the same.
Gotcha.
We need to find creative ways, because the big concern people are going to throw out there is like, oh, well, it costs money. Supporting the local artists costs money, and like, giving them money so that they can build themselves up and like blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, well then we need to find the ways that don't cost money. Like it doesn't cost anything to give artists a space. Now, I would love to talk about the fact that like some of our economic development should definitely be like, well, if we have someone who wants to build like a space for artists, I would love to see more music venues. I would love to like smaller local band size music venues, Right. We don't need another stadium for acts. Right. We need small stages that are going to build and develop our local artists.
That's exactly what this gallery is, the one we're in right now.
Yeah.
They just started, I think, around like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And that's their whole goal is like, upstairs was a complete mess. They did it out of their own will to come and take out all that trash and build studios for artists to give them the opportunities.
Definitely.
And so I feel like that's also the same view for the city, is giving the creative people here in the community the chance to see what ideas they can come up with to also help grow the city.
Right.
Because the ideas these creatives have, it's ridiculous. It's extraordinary. The things that they can bring. It's
like we said though, that requires change. That's
exactly.
Someone who's daring and willing to put the bet on the table and say like, let's do it. Like we want to say support your local artists and back your local artists. We'll support and back your local artists. Fill up a room and show off their art and be like, this is one of ours, like buy this, support them. That's the only way we're going to survive like this coming economy. It really is.
It's building together as a community.
Definitely. And at the very base level, we are building to sustain ourselves for not just the next 10, 20 years, but for the next 50, 60 years. And there are a lot of issues that we have to tackle in order to do that. But I feel that if we work together and we build this strong foundation, we can do it.
Gotcha. And so that's the question that the gallery is going to ask you now is, them being our hosting gallery, what piece of advice would you give to either artists or creators in general, or even just the city in general that comes like from you or from somebody, advice that somebody gave you?
So I have two pieces of advice. There's one that I heard from someone. It's not really advice. He said it like it was a fact of life, and I disagree with it strongly.
Okay.
He said that if you do this, and I had been talking to him about running, and he says if you do it, you're gonna do it alone. Like you're gonna be on your own. That's not true. Like that's I have met so many people like on the course of this path, and like not everyone is meant to be in your creative circle, because I do feel that I am a creative, and I do feel that my campaign is an artistic creation. I'm trying to do something very different. And when you build something authentically like that, people get drawn to it. No one wants to see something that's that unique and that powerful and not be a part of it. So I don't think you're never alone. You might not see that person right there, but like there are people out there, there are people for you to meet, and you just have to like kind of step out there and make yourself available to them. And that leads into the kind of the second bit of advice, and it's one of my favorite lines from one of my favorite shows, Mr. Robot. It's life could be beautiful or it could be ugly, but that's on you.
Yeah, I like that. I love it.
And I choose to see the beauty in the world. I'm looking out there. I'm going out there to try and create that beauty.
Which is just like we talked like right now during this episode, and also like previously before we started recording, was the change that you're gonna make. Nobody's gonna do that for you besides you, and no one's gonna stop you but you. Only you have the whole control in it. That's right. So that really fits into that, and I think that's very beautiful.
Thank you.
I think that the last thing that I kind of just wanted to mention was, and I want to just open it up to you. Anything else that you kind of want to really touch bases on and want to talk about? Because I read your website and everything, and I really like having you on the show because you actually really care about the changes in the community.
I do.
You really want to see the local.
I want that to be like conveyed at the very most. I've started canvassing. I've started going door to door and talking to people, and a couple of them have been. I've gone over the past couple of weekends, and so it was like 100-something degrees out there, and so. A couple of them have been like, well, I can tell you care because you wouldn't be out here walking by yourself in 100-degree weather if you didn't care at least a little bit about what you're doing and what you're saying. The one thing I want people to pull away is that, like, I know I'm inexperienced. I know I'm not a politician. I know I'm not the typical choice. And that's exactly why I think I'm the best one, because we want real change. And we want new, fresh perspective. And we need to educate our people. And so I think someone who's been going through this as an educator, dedicated themselves to, kids, to the future, because it is about them. That's why I wanted to do it. And I wanted to put in the work because I care about their future. I saw the issues that were ahead of us, and I said to myself, I can't in good conscience go teach and tell these kids, the city is yours, the world is yours, you can go claim it, when I know all these things are like making that impossible. So I shifted focus, and I'm doing it because I care. Right.
And then just to recap on it, how would you really support creatives within your platform, or where you're going to start?
The El Paso Beat is always welcome to creatives. If you are listening to this or watching this and you want to share something, I would love to have you on. You can always reach out to me. I'm on all the social medias on the El Paso Beat, and that's going to tie into my campaign. I'm going to use the podcast to, educate and kind of make more transparent the office. But I do want to, because once you're a city representative, once you're in the leadership, in the spotlight. Right. It's really easy for you to choose like, oh, well, I have the spotlight, I'm going to make it about me. Or, I'm in the spotlight, I'm going to make it about the artists. I'm going to make it about the creatives. And I'm going to use my platform and use the fact that, like, yes, like now thousands of people are paying attention to me. And it's like, well, yeah, like we can redirect our attention anywhere. Right.
Opportunities are endless.
Exactly. Yeah. And so every opportunity that I find that I can direct that spotlight and lift up our local creatives and artists, I'm going to do it because it's them who are going to support us in the future economy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the very last question I'm going to ask you is, being where you're at right now, what is something you know now that you wish you would have first known when you got started, whether it's in any area that you're in?
The podcast is way more work than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I understand now why podcasts have teams. And like, there's a person who does editing, and there's a person who does like, video and different stuff like that. Like, it's a ton of work, and so is being a city representative. And so what I wish I knew is the learning curve. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of these little steps, to making a podcast, to being an artist, to getting into local politics. There's all these little rules and things that you have to know. Yeah. And going through it the first time sucks because you snag all the traps and you get tripped up. And so I wish I had a little more knowledge about those things, because I feel like every time that comes up, I'm getting slowed down. And something like this, I'm working with a deadline. As of today's recording, it's 422 days between now and the election. Mm-hmm. And, I keep a track of the days, and I'm keeping track of the time. And it's like, I have a finite amount of time. And so I do count it. I do get frustrated with just the little details that get caught up. But it's a necessary learning experience.
So then, hearing that, how important do you think is the whole patience process of it?
You have to have patience. You have to have patience with yourself, most of all, and patience with people. And just remember that everyone's a person, and that they all have their own things going on. But and patience with yourself, that one's a lot trickier, I'll admit. I have high expectations for myself. Like, I will never really fully ever please myself, because I'm always going to be pushing myself to take it to that next level. But you have to understand that takes time. Okay. And it takes work. And it includes for artists as well. You start your craft. I played clarinet for, I don't know how many years off the top of my head, 5th grade to senior year. And, I did well. I applied myself, I practiced, and I got to a high position in band when I was in band. And, but that doesn't happen overnight. Like, you can't do anything overnight. You have to put in the work.
Right. Mm-hmm. So now the last thing is, where can people find you? Where can they reach out to you to know more about your campaign, your podcast, and everything you're doing?
So definitely hit up the podcast. The podcast is where, because, you're all creatives, and I've had several creatives on, so I encourage you to check out, especially their episodes. I had a local video game and film composer, Enrique Ponce, who also composed the music for my show. I had a film director who actually finished filming they're finished filming their a horror movie, and it's going to premiere in October of this year. Cool. And so I'll tell him to come hit you up so that he can come promote that too. And the El Paso Beat is everywhere that you can stream podcasts, or at least most places: Spotify, Pandora, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I'm not on YouTube. I am strictly audio. I'm not pretty enough for video.
It takes a lot of confidence.
So I am just audio. I think I'll get into video down the line. If I get elected, then that would make more sense for me to put that work into it. But for now, wherever you can stream music, you can probably find the show. I'm on the main social medias. Actually, I'm pretty niche ones too. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, and Nextdoor. There is a Nextdoor page for the El Paso Beat, which is a very Hail Mary attempt to try and get people who care about their community.
But it goes back to the opportunity. Just seek it wherever you can plug yourself in.
Exactly. Sometimes that's all you can do. And so the podcast, I definitely encourage you to check that out. If you want to check out the campaign, I am also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then my website is Genera for District 5 and the number 5.com.
Awesome. Cool. And then, so before we go, so people don't know that I'm lying, and so I want you to taste test this.
Transparency is very much my thing. Socialize. I'm no stranger to socialize.
You actually go?
I'm trying to lose weight and be healthy for the campaign, so I haven't been in a good minute. Gotcha. I'm actually breaking my intermittent fasting window for this, so that's just goes to show how good the mangonadas from Socialites are.
Really good.
But personally, my favorite is the cucumber lime snow thing.
I don't know if they still have that.
Yeah. They don't have that anymore?
I don't think so. I talked to him, and I don't know if they still do. I know they got rid of some stuff.
We gotta start a petition. I'll get right on that. As soon as I get elected, we're gonna petition and get those back, because those were the best.
Yeah.
I'm always down for socialize.
Well, awesome, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I mean, of course, you guys go check him out. I'll link him down in the description. I'll put him everywhere around this video, as I usually do. And make sure you guys go check out Socialize. If you guys are an artist as well, looking for a gallery here to open up a studio or something, make sure you come check out Amano, the Artist Co-op. It's here in the heart of downtown. I mean, I love this place so much. And we'll go ahead and catch you guys in the next episode. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys.